Let's get ready to rumble!
Now let's get a little perspective here. We're talking about a boxing subscription. We're not talking about the energy crisis, the petrol crisis. We're talking about a boxing subscription, all which would come under what you have to spend with your disposable income. This is not a necessity. People having to make hard decisions whether they're going to heat up the place or if they're going to eat tonight. And a lot of these multi-corporations who are aware of what's happening are still turning over billions of pounds in profit, not giving nothing back. That's exploitation. Not what Eddie said a few years back, running his mouth in America about pay-per-views dead. No. The whole DAZN lied to us and Eddie lied to us. It's a little over-emotional. They brought the streaming service into play, was it 2018? Yes, Eddie did run his mouth talking about he's going to put pay-per-view out of business. It's finished, it's done, it's finished. And he did do that. Yes, he did. But DAZN have lost a lot of money. They've tried to make a lot of fights with a lot of opposition and no cooperation from other promoters and networks. This is facts. Yeah, and if you think I'm going to spend my whole time bringing all receipts of the amount of fights that DAZN have tried to make and have been stumped, nah, I've got other things to do. And the facts are, anyone who's paying bills, independent from their parents, and is bitching that DAZN said, or Eddie Hearn said, pay-per-view is done, this is the way forward, and you're still trying to bring that up constantly, we know he said it. We know he's a loudmouth. We know this. But the business of DAZN hasn't went exactly to plan. So now they're having to adapt strategies. It is what it is. How much CANELO fights have you had on DAZN just for the subscription? Let's say if you're a British one like me. You could scream you was lied to, you was deceived, you was bamboozled. But the truth is, when DAZN was saying they were going to put pay-per-view out of business, they believed that this was a reality. They believed they were going to put up offers for fights to be made. Career high paydays for opposition networks and promoters would have to take for their fighters, and it turned into Cold War bollocks. They were prepared to put their money where their mouth is, but it didn't pan out. DAZN are not able to make Garcia versus Tank, not through the want of trying. They're not able to do that. They haven't been able to secure the likes of Demetrius Andrade fights, and now he's no longer on there. And now they've had to look at the landscape and they've had to adapt strategies. It is what it is. Whether you like what I'm saying or not, it is what it is. So you think they can't make fights with the likes of Tank and other PBC fighters, and Tank is fighting tin pot soldiers for a tin pot belt on pay-per-view, and now you think it's unreasonable that they put Triple G and CANELO on pay-per-view. You think that's unreasonable? £10, 5 a.m., right? £10, 5 a.m. for an undisputed title fight with two of the most popular fighters in the sport. You add that with Sky and their pay-per-view with Anthony Joshua, $26.95. You're getting two pay-per-views, one unified title fight with 3 belts and one undisputed. 30-odd pounds in pay-per-view revenue in 2022. You compare that to what America is paying. Then the bottom line is, like I said, it's not a necessity. Your children ain't going to freeze or starve if you don't purchase CANELO or Triple G. Just don't pay for it. Because I guarantee you in that month, right, DAZN are going to give us at least 2 or 3 other cards that you can just get for the subscription only. Just don't pay for it. But let's not make out this is the most wickedest thing in boxing ever done. Anyone doing that, we know you have an agenda, and it's just some bullshit. Yeah? Stop the thespian amateur dramatics. It's over the top. It's corny as fuck. Chill the fuck out. Don't buy it. Find something better to do with your time. What is it you want DAZN to do exactly? Bow and repent to thee who think they've been lied to? Come on, man. You're going over the top. You're going over the top. Just don't buy it. You can find something better else to do with your time than acting like you've been hard done by DAZN. Ridiculous. Shit happens. PBC do not put on as much shows as they did when they started. And now they're putting a lot of stuff on pay-per-view that they would have probably put on free TV in 2016. HBO got out of the game. I'm sure if they could go back to when Eddie was saying pay-per-view was dead, pay-per-view was dead, they'd take it back. But there's nothing they can do about that. I don't know what it is you want them to do. I mean, oh, they lied to us, they lied to us. Is it in your contract with DAZN where they said there's no way we're going to do pay-per-view? Unless you can find that in your fine print, then you wasn't lied to. Some of you just want to have something to say about DAZN because that's the thing, that's your thing. You know what I mean, maybe because it's Eddie's there and whatever. Let's keep it short. There's only two debates here, right? Whether you're going to keep going over, oh, they lied, they lied, they lied, or is £10 Triple G versus Canelo for the undisputed super middleweight title value for money? There's two debates there. Eddie having a big mouth has got nothing to do whether Triple G versus Canelo 3 is good value. Are you going to buy it or not? Yeah? This is not a necessity. You're not going to die of hypothermia. You're not going to purchase that and the price of food is going to skyrocket or you can't fill up your petrol tank. Get over yourselves. Now I'm going to purchase. Because that's my decision. If your decision is not to purchase, move on. Move on. Like this is the biggest injustice in society. Move on. Frank Warren charging £5 for Dillian White versus Tyson Fury were one of the worst undercards we've ever seen on a UK pay-per-view. But these Eddie Hearn detractors, they won't talk shit about that. This is what, listen. You know, and then you can even go overseas, like Charles Martin versus Luis Ortiz, or Barrios versus Thurman, or any of Tank's pay-per-views. Absolute fucking shit. Whether it's fucking prime time in America, or we're 5 hours behind in the UK, absolute trash and garbage. And Eddie's put on trash and garbage as well, no doubt. When he was with Sky, there has been some trash and garbage pay-per-views, no doubt. Hopefully, I'll be going live to do some commentary on Canelo and Triple G. I'll probably make sure that I'm well rested in the day so I don't fall asleep on the hangout or whatever, you know what I mean? And it should be good. It should be good. I'm going to enjoy it. Are Eddie and DAZN guilty of bait and switch? Yes. Is Triple G versus Canelo one of the biggest fights in boxing right now? Yes. Is it unreasonable to put Triple G and Canelo on as pay-per-view for £10 in the UK? Hell the fuck no. Are a lot of you out there with the fake outrage really shocked that Canelo and Triple G is pay-per-view when the first two fights were as well? No, you're not. What you should be pissed about is that the KSI pay-per-view is more expensive than the Canelo pay-per-view. £20 if you're not subscribed, $19.98, and $11.99 if you're subscribed. Canelo obviously is $9.99 if you're subscribed, and £17.99 I believe if you're not subscribed. That's what you should be bitching about. Then again, why even bitch? Either you pay or you don't. Look, it's not whether you think the match is great or anything. The numbers determine whether pay-per-view was a success. If you're going to judge the aesthetics of the fight and the fighters, that's two different debates. Only some people realize that. Like Coogan didn't seem to understand that being the draw is about putting bums on seats and pay-per-view numbers. He seemed to be thinking, oh, the draw isn't always the guy who sells the most. That's what he was telling Eddie. Like, can't compartmentalize things. But reality is reality. Just because he's the draw doesn't necessarily make him the better fighter, per se, but he is the draw. And the facts are, the KSI Wasabi fight is probably worth more to a broadcaster in the UK than Triple G and Canelo 5 AM on a Saturday night. They're the logistics. And I know it's not popular, but in defense of Eddie Hearn is what he said early in 2019. Early 2019, this is basically the embryonic stages of Eddie joining DAZN. He said, pay-per-view is dead unless you're Floyd or Conor McGregor or Canelo. And then he started laughing that, well, Canelo's not doing pay-per-view no more because he was a Golden Boy at that time who had signed with DAZN. So if you're going to quote all the pay-per-view is dead talk, you have to quote where he said where the exceptions were. In this same video, he said the only way Triple G makes $10 million is if he fights Canelo. And what fight is he putting on next? He's putting on Triple G versus Canelo. But you're not quoting that. You're not quoting that because you're not interested. Yeah? This is your big opportunity to let the world know how dishonorable Eddie Hearn is. But you're not telling the whole truth. Fight Hub. The video's in the description box if you care to listen, which I guess you won't, especially if you're determined to keep with your narrative.
For many, 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 many fights, yeah. I think that unless you're Floyd Mayweather, unless you're Conor McGregor, unless you're Canelo.
Let's move on.
Kick the ballistics, G.
Tell you what, man, I was listening to that Barbershop Conversations interview with Bob Arum, and Bob was suggesting that Daniel Kinahan filed the racism lawsuit against him on behalf of Terence Crawford. Now, I don't know what's happened to that lawsuit. It was like it's gone, and Bob was saying they don't have no case, and if that's the case, that's the case. And you have to wonder why Daniel Kinahan would have went down that route there. It looks like he was trying to take Bob down, and this is what I believe a lot of people feared in boxing, that he was going to start throwing his weights around, and if you let him build up too much of a head of steam, he will be very difficult to stop, and they cut him down. Bob Arum is what you call old money, and I ain't talking about what he's got in his pocket, I'm talking about his associations. He was in the Kennedy office from the 60s, and if you start fucking with people like Bob, I'm not saying he's untouchable, anyone can get caught, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing. He was talking about the ticket prices for Golovkin and Triple G3. He's saying they've overpriced the tickets. Like the second fight, they started at $300. Then they increased to $500, $700. They actually had to put limits to tickets per person for the $300 and $500 tickets. And the highest ticket was $5,000. This time they're starting the tickets at $700. Double the price of what the lowest ticket price was for the second fight, and the highest ticket price is $6,500. Will there be a drop-off? Will the Canelo fans be that enthusiastic after he lost to Dimitri Bivol in what wasn't his greatest performance? What's the pay-per-view price for that fight in America? Is it around $80? I don't think Canelo's going to be around that much longer. He's achieved quite a lot already, so I don't think he's going to be around for that long, and DAZN are going to make the most of it. Anyone with any sense thinking that Canelo is going to fight maybe 2-3 more times and get out, and they're not going to make his fights pay-per-view? How old is Deontay Wilder now? 35, 36? Will we see him in the ring under 220 again? Looking at these two pictures, he's obviously a whole lot bigger on the left, and I'm assuming this is him for the third Tyson Fury fight. And the picture of him on the right is him recently training with Michael Hunter. Now, he's just got back into training, so I'm going to assume when he gets back in the ring, he's definitely going to be a bit more muscular, especially around the neck, just so he can absorb any return fire coming back at him. Now, he was a career high against Tyson Fury, nowhere near as big as Tyson Fury was. I haven't got all the weights here right now. Now, it's early days, and by the time his diet and training kicks in, he might bulk up a little more. Is he intending to get back to the same weights he was, or the same body mass that he was for Tyson Fury? Or is he going to go back under 220? He's got a very lean body type for a heavyweight, or he has had so for the majority of his career. But he's getting older. I think at his age, he'll probably just train to the weight that he feels comfortable to step in to the ring with, and that would be it. Heavy knockout, lost last time out. Took some very heavy shots in that fight. These heavyweights hit very hard, and you know, they've all got to be thinking about life after boxing, because when 17, 18 stone guys are cracking each other with the full extension and leverage of their shots, it's not something to be toyed with. And is he going to fight Robert Helenius next? He sparred with Helenius, so he knows what Helenius can do. And Wilder will be a huge favourite, but his punch resistance after them 2 beatings he's took from Tyson Fury. Punch resistance could be compromised. Confidence could be compromised. That might not show up taking on Helenius, but you know, when you go up another level, and there are levels here, then we'll get more answers, obviously. They've done a press conference for Parker versus Joyce. The fight will be on BT, where it was supposed to be initially before Joseph Parker signed with Sky. Parker and Frank Warren were going back and forth. I've got the text here. This is what you said. You agreed to that. You know, Parker was saying that Frank was intolerable to deal with, you know, because Parker didn't want to sign a long-term deal. He just wanted to have a one-fight contract and get his money, fight Joyce, and move on. Both Parker and Joyce were probably a little more animated than we've seen in press conferences, and maybe someone from BT and Sky has had a word and said, yo, look guys, man, we've got to sell these fights. I wouldn't be shocked if it's pay-per-view. I wouldn't be shocked at all, you know. The fight breaks down into two halves, and I'm going to reserve a final prediction until I see the weigh-in, because the weigh-in for this fight is going to tell us a lot. Parker was heavier than usual against Derek Chisora. I haven't got the weights here for the rematch with Derek Chisora. He scored a few more knockdowns. Did that enable him to plant his feet and get more weight behind his shots, because he dropped Derek a couple of times? But will standing in front of Joe Joyce be Parker's best plan of action? The juggernaut? I don't know. I see Parker boxing early rounds, probably not coming in as heavy as he did for Chisora too. Boxing, moving, how that works though, I'm not sure. He didn't seem that willing to engage with Anthony Joshua and lost the unanimous decision. Is he going to do the same thing here? Will he keep the heavier weight that he fought Chisora for the Joyce fight and actually try and fight a more physical fight? Because running around the ring not engaging, it's not going to do much for his profile. It's not going to do much for me watching the fight, and it's not going to do much to get him the W. I see Parker boxing early and Joyce coming on strong mid to late rounds. It's a good fight. I'm glad they've made it. I don't buy into this Joyce is indestructible and can't be hurt thing. I don't buy into that. Bryant Jennings hurt him to the body, and I think Parker is going to give him issues. First fight was for Undisputed in February. Controversial decision went Josh Taylor's way. Since then, Josh has had to drop a couple of belts rather than take on mandatories like Sabeda and the other gentleman's name who I forgot. He's going to try and clean up the controversial decision he got against Jack Catterall, November the 26th. And a few things have had to have happened for this fight to get the all clear. Probellum, who Jack Catterall signed to in March shortly after he lost to Josh Taylor, are still in a lawsuit apparently with Sky Sports. Sky Sports put up a waiver that any Probellum fighters have to sign and denounce any association with Probellum, with MTK Global and with Daniel Kinahan, etc., etc. The lawsuit I still think is ongoing, but you have to give credit to Richard Schaefer. Despite the ongoing legal situation with Sky and Boxer XX, with his blessing, Jack Catterall has signed a multi-fight deal with Sky, and the rematch with Josh Taylor will go ahead on Sky, November the 26th. OVO O2 Arena in Scotland, is it? And obviously ESPN and Top Rank will do what they do with the fight in America. It's good news for British boxing, great news for Sky to secure a good fight like that. The question now is, do they put it on pay-per-view? And that's entirely their decision. They will do all the research necessary and let us know. Neither Catterall or Josh Taylor have been big draws in this country, but both men are going to want significant purses, and perhaps the only way to at least try and address that is to put it on pay-per-view. November the 26th, it's all good. One of the best matchups in UK boxing right now is that fight there. You can jump ship from Matchroom, but Ben Shalom is not picking up everybody who jumps ship. Adam Smith is not going to pick up everybody. Now, it's hard for people to see themselves for who they are, whether they're talented or not. And LeRon Richards has talent, super middle. But let's look at LeRon Richards. You've already been with Frank Warren, Queensbury, and you've been with Eddie Hearn. And up till recently, these have been the two major promoters in the game. If you haven't made it happen with Frank or Eddie, what is it Ben Shalom believes he can do with LeRon Richards that Eddie or Frank couldn't? You see, the victory over Gongora on a Matchroom card was an excellent victory. But because he was in the fight and he took all the chances, he can't see what the rest of the sporting world. Let's not just reduce it to boxing. To be successful, you have to build a following outside of people who follow boxing religiously like me and yourself. They saw LeRon, if they saw it, not looking like Mike Tyson, Not looking like a Bam Rodriguez, but a good boxer. A good boxer who is capable of shutting down aggression and offense to a degree. Now he's left Matchroom frustrated with his opportunities, and he's talking about fighting Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs is not going to fight LeRone Richards at this stage of Danny's career. What for? Like, Oscar Targi is a name he mentioned, that fight could happen. David Benavidez, is he going to fight LeRone Richards? Is he going to call out next Charlo? Them PBC fighters are barely active. You're going to call them out? Let's see how that goes. Now, I heard about him leaving Matchroom, but when Eddie said we had a slot for him on the Triple G CANELO card against AKHMEDOV, who is managed, I believe, by Triple G. AKHMEDOV was stopped by Gongora. And I don't know what it is about LeRone. He maybe is thinking, Gongora already stopped that guy and I beat Gongora. Why am I going to fight this guy? I'm going backwards. You're going to fight AKHMEDOV because AKHMEDOV is 18-1 with 14 KOs and styles make fights. When Gongora beat AKHMEDOV, that was the first time a lot of us who follow boxing religiously really sat up and took notice of Gongora. And that's because AKHMEDOV was very aggressive. In the early stages, you had to wonder, was he going to run over Gongora and walk through him? But he wasn't able to. But when he fights LeRone Richards, he's not going to fight LeRone Richards like Gongora did, where it was forgettable. That's what a lot of people said. It was a forgettable fight. It was a good victory, but it was forgettable. But AKHMEDOV is the perfect foil for LeRone Richards. An aggressive guy who's going to come forward, the type of opponent that LeRone needs. You know, to me, guys like Oscar Targi are awkward fighters to look good against. And that's who you want to fight? Yeah, he is a slugger, but he's awkward as well. He's very awkward. You want someone just to come forward who you can counter and hit with regularity. He's going to keep coming. He's going to push you and make you have to work that bit harder. AKHMEDOV was the guy who's going to push it out of you and maybe actually force you to try and stop him. Perfect opponent for LeRone. Perfect opponent on the perfect platform. Triple G versus Canelo, but maybe Cali and Nice are going to go for him, but they've already got a lot of fighters there who are not looking like Mike Tyson, are not looking like Bam Rodriguez, are not looking like Julio Cesar Chavez, who are not looking like Rocky Lockridge, who are not looking like Jerry McClellan or Iran Barkley. Well, let's see where he goes from here. Let's see where he goes. 2 major British promoters down, and this is a small country. Let's see if Cali or Ben Shalom make a move. Maybe someone like LeRone could talk to Al on the PBC. They might be able to get him a few fights over there, but like I said, a lot of their fighters are inactive over there. I don't think Bob Arum is signing LeRone Richards. I just don't see it. Go back to Frank. That would be regressing, wouldn't it? Frank's got Zach Parker and Ronnie Heffron, who just beat Lennox Clark. Lennox actually lost to LeRone Richards on Queensbury, and it was a close fight. It was a close fight. I think he was expecting a little too much out of Eddie. I think there was an ideal opportunity against AKHMEDOV on Canelo versus Triple G, but hopefully he can find someone who believes in his talent and takes time with him, and they can get him some significant fights and maybe challenge for a title. So AKHMEDOV apparently isn't good enough for LeRone Richards, but Gabe Rosado, good old Gabe, reliable Gabe, is good enough for him. So he's on the Triple G Canelo card, and we'll see what he can do with AKHMEDOV. He didn't turn it down. I wonder what would have happened if Eddie had offered LeRone Rosado. He would have turned that down as well. Why? Because he's got losses on his records. This picture appeared on Twitter of Isaac Chamberlain and the extent of what the orbital bone injury looks like is broken on the right side of his face. Scars of battle. Scars of battle. But he said he's built for this and he'll be back. We've seen Inoue come back from an orbital bone break, but a lot of fighters have had that injury and they've never really been the same. Be it Kell Brook. We don't know what Billy Joe Saunders is going to return to the ring like. It looks like he's looking for a fight. He's another guy actually who looks like his Matchroom days are numbered. It just seems like every week Matchroom fighters' days are numbered. Will Ben Shalom sign Billy Joe Saunders? Perhaps he will. Perhaps he will. Uh.